Well, it's just like I've known her longer than she's lived in Lehigh. She's lived in Lehigh like 25 years. No, money, a lot of money.
We'll call the meeting to 5:30. Approval of
She gets a petition signed to get one.
Okay. So we have the approval of the August 5th, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, but on the mailing I got, it said May 6th, but I'll make a motion to approve those August minutes.
I'll second. Marty Larson.
I have a first and I have a second from Mayor Childs. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And motion passes. Public comment. There was no public comment sent in. Good. So we'll close the public comment. First item is the UDOT tip. Paul. Thank you. Did you click on that? Maybe. There we go. All right, we have two tip amendments before you tonight. Both of them have to do with UDOT projects and UDOT funds, so there's no MAC specific funds in either of these projects, but as the owners of the tip, you have to approve everything that goes into it. The first one, this is a new project in Highland. The light's a little bit tough to see in here, but this is SR 92 as you're getting closer to the canyon. North County Boulevard is right here. And a couple of these streets, as people are pulling in to those areas, we don't have a center turn lane in this area. And so drivers are having to stop to make left turns. And this is a relatively high traffic, high speed road. And so what UDOT is proposing to do is basically just extend the center turn lane to get at least to this, I believe it's called Spruce Road. Mayor Ben, you may want to correct me on that if I'm wrong. And they're just extending the center turn lane further to the east towards the mouth of the canyon. And so it's $600,000. It's all UDOT funds. And it, like I said, it's just extending that. Are there any questions I can add or answer on this specific one?
I would like to personally just thank UDOT for doing this because it is a real problem, especially during the summer months when the canyon backs up and on busy days and busy hours. It's I think it'll avoid some accidents in the future, and it is a safety issue. So thank you.
Okay, in a motion.
I'll move that we approve that project. Rodman.
I'll second it. Troy Stout.
Have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, the 2022 TIP project selection. Actually, before we get to that, we have one more TIP modification. We kind of have an A and a B.
Oh, hold on just one moment.
Oh, that's right.
Hold on just one moment.
Okay. Can everybody see the presentation screen online?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So this is another TIP amendment. Again, it's another UDOT project. This is an existing project. It was selected by the Transportation Commission in 2020. This area, most of you are aware of, this is the Pleasant Grove interchange area. This is North County Boulevard. Well, this is North County Boulevard, and this is Pleasant Grove Boulevard as it goes up through here. Many of you, if you've gone through this area, know that that is a mass intersection. The current funding is $9.1 million to increase capacity in this area. Oh. Just pausing for a minute to do a little bit of audio visual checks. So bear with us for just a moment. Maybe you just advance the slide once. Okay. Sorry, we're still working on it. Thank you for your patience. Just give us a second. Amen. Click on one more time. Okay, now, I got it. Sorry. So let me just come back to this really quickly and reset everybody. So again, an existing 2020 project, there's currently $9.1 million to work on this intersection, this whole area around the Pleasant Grove Boulevard interchange. Since that project was selected, there have been some significant cost increases. Part of it is they've been doing some pavement work in the area. They skipped this area to do that pavement rehab because they didn't want to do it and then have to tear it back out when they came up with this final solution. But they didn't take that into account in their original cost estimates. There's 2 new signals that are now part of this project. There are a couple of improvements to coordinate with the Pleasant Grove 1300 West realignment project. And as all of you probably know, the cost of construction and property is gone up significantly. So they were short on funds on this project. So like I said, there was the original 9.1. UDOT what's before you is UDOT is wanting to add 4.16 million of their funds. Again, this is all UDOT funds to the project. New total to $13,260,000. So again, this is all UDOT money. They're just adding more money to this scope, to this existing project. Are there any questions I can answer on this one? It's a proposed motion. We'll entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend that $4.16 million be added to the Pleasant Grove interchange area capacity project.
Yeah, first from Mayor Wright. Mayor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mayor, I jumped ahead.
It's yours.
All right, so tip selection process. So as all of you know, we run the transportation improvement program. That includes regional transportation projects that are funded from the MPO, from UDOT, from UTA, even if they're regional locals. We, as an organization, for the funds that we control, we select projects every 2 years. The next selection cycle begins now. The new projects that will be selected, the majority of them will be funded in 2025 and 2026. We'll have approximately $80 to $90 million. We don't know how much money we get until probably in the springtime. This is our guess right now, but all indications are the revenue streams look very good. And part of the kickoff process is we always want to review and adjust this selection process to make it better. And so that's the action portion of this one tonight. And I'll tell you about that when we get there. For some reason it's not. Did you click on something? Let me. Now, so eligible projects. What projects are eligible for our selection process? New roads, widening projects, intersections, active transportation, regional transportation studies, new transit service, air quality reduction programs, intelligent transportation systems. We often refer to them as ITS projects. Some requirements: road projects must be on the state functional class map. Most of the projects that we get already are. If you have a project that is not on that functional class map, this is also a process to add that. So just because it's not on there doesn't mean you can't apply for it. You just, as part of the application, you need to kind of justify why it should be on that list, on that map, I should say. All capacity projects must come from municipal transportation or agency plans. You want to make sure that it's supported in your master transportation plans, that you've gone through it. And all capacity projects must be listed or supported in the regional transportation plan. That does not mean it needs to be a numbered project in the RTP. It just needs to be supported in there. Funding. So MAG, we use federal, county, and state exchange funds. There is a 6.77% match on all funds. Projects must use the UDOT cost estimating spreadsheet when they do their cost estimates, and the estimates must be based on a federally funded project. So when your staff sends us their application, that cost estimate needs to be as if it's a federal project. Projects awarded county and exchange funds are reduced by 15% because they do not have to follow the federal process, and therefore they come in much cheaper. And the majority, like I said earlier, the majority of the funding is in 2025, 2026. There will be some projects that we'll be able to do earlier than that. It just depends on what those projects are and our funding streams at the time. Melanie? There we go. So process improvements. I think I went too far. Maybe put back on it. There you go. Don't touch anything. Process improvement discussion. So one thing that's very unique about this process is we've looked across the country and nobody does it the way we do. Having TAC each vote on projects is basically unprecedented. Voting members are doing the technical review and voting on their own projects. That's really quite different. If you looked at Wasatch Front Regional Council or UDOT, basically what happens is the staff will create the list, will score the projects and create the initial list. Then the technical advisory committee and their policy committees will look at them, adjust them, and then approve them. So we're quite different that way. No other MPO that we can find does it the way we do. So obviously between project selection processes, we talk to your staffs, we hear problems, concerns, questions. And one of the biggest one is, at least within the TAC committee, is it really a technical process or is it a little too political? Some of the things that we've heard from your staff members are, are people using the project idea stage, they see how their fellow TAC members voted on their project, and so they use that to go out and politic for better votes at the concept stage. Staff members being told how to vote on other cities' projects. A big problem is large projects are being turned down or encouraged to be phased down because they're too big, and people think, oh, if we fund this big project, even though it may be the best project, that may mean less money for my own project. Consultants be told to keep price below a certain level to improve their chances. South County does have more cities and therefore more votes. And just lots of rumors of what goes on during the process. And we as MAG staff, we recognize that part of this is a political process. We would just, and I think TAC agrees, they want to keep the TAC side of it technical and allow the political portion to happen with this body, because that's who you guys are. So with hearing all that, MAG staff, we gathered kind of a representative group of some TAC members, some from the north, some from the south, some from the center, and we just brought them together and said, okay, we're hearing all this from you guys. What do you want us to do about it? And so what I'm going to walk you through is the process that we would normally walk through. And it's basically the same process that we've had in the past, but there's going to be 2 changes, and I'll highlight them as we get to that. And these are the changes that were recommended to us by your staffs, the TAC members. So this is the basic process, and we'll go through it bit by bit. So here we're talking about the kickoff. These are the major milestones. Basically, we're kicking off now. Project idea stage will wrap up in February. Concepts we'll be looking at in the springtime. We'll have a list for you to look at in May and approve in June. And then funding and the final tip will be adopted in August. Okay, so that gives you a basic timeline. Let's see, moving on. So the project idea stage, this is kind of just the initial, very short. Tell us what you're thinking about. Give us a basic idea of how much it's going to cost. We have all these ideas brought together. They put together a draft application. Then we have your staff come and meet with MAG staff, and we sit down and we talk about these projects and try and figure out how we want to help your staff, your projects be the most successful we can. So we'll do that in November. Final idea application will be due in December. Then TAC will review the project, and in January 10th, we'll have the meeting where we bring all of the TAC committee together and they look at all of the projects. Each project has the opportunity to present for a few minutes and tell the TAC what the project is, why it's important, etc. So this is one of the new changes that you'll be voting on tonight. Originally, TAC would vote, meaning your staff members would vote at that meeting and kind of give it a score, each project a score of like 1 through 7 or 1 through 5. The proposal now is that TAC will be able to present their projects. The committee will ask questions and will make comments on it during the presentation, but TAC will not vote. What they've asked is they've asked MAG staff to look at these projects and categorize them based on, is it regional? Is it, what's the problem? And is it a good solution? Is it cost effective? And just kind of give it a high, medium, and low grade, so to speak. So basically, TAC is saying, MAG staff, we feel like you're the most objective to look at these projects and look at them on a purely technical standpoint. Give us an idea, give us kind of a high, medium, low, and then we'll move on from there. There's nothing binding about it. If there's a project that got a low, even like before, that didn't mean you couldn't move forward. It's just maybe you need to relook at things, maybe you need to modify the scope, etc. So this is the first change. TAC will not vote at this stage, but MAG staff will just kind of give that categorization. That, again, the vote in the beginning never really meant anything. It was just a way to give feedback to the individual projects or individual cities on this is how your project is viewed. Any questions on that portion? Yes, sir.
Well, I'm assuming that MAG staff is comfortable with this.
Well, you know, it's your process, it's your, and we'll do what you want. If TAC members say this is what we want you guys to do, then this is what you ask us to do and we'll do it. We pride ourselves on being impartial. We pride ourselves on the fact that we know the projects. I mean, one problem, I'm not trying to pick on extremes, but say someone that lives in Payson or doesn't know what it's like out in Eagle Mountain and why this project is really important. And vice versa, your guys may not know what it's like in Santaquin. And so they look to us and say, yeah, you guys have been there, you've been around, you know it. So if this is what you guys want us to do, we'll do it.
Let me just add in here that we're very comfortable with the change that's taking place and feel like it's worked really well for the cities over the years. We like to look at this as a decision support tool that we give to you, and you guys ultimately can end up changing you know, how these are approved in that voting in August and July. Bob's just explaining the first piece of this, which is the idea
Yes, this is just
section,
the
and then it
initial
goes
stage.
into the concept report. So we're supportive of what TAC recommended and staff supports it.
Well, I do like the aspect that in TAC, it kind of changes the dynamic and probably gets a better focus at TAC.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And one of the reasons I think MAG staff likes this too is, you know, 10 years ago, we maybe got $20 million. And that's grown a lot. We've got $80, $90 million. We can do some big projects. We need big projects. And so we can help kind of eliminate some of that, where that project's too big. So project idea stage, we're going to say we're either going to vote it low because it's so expensive, or we're going to tell you, you need to cut that project down because it's too expensive. And we just want to be able to say, hey, it's a good project, it's expensive, but it's a good project that needs to be done, right? So that's that first change. And like,
Do you think, it's always felt weird or wrong, and maybe Wendy and Janola, you know, we don't have tax staff. You know, I am the staff, I showed up for a couple of meetings, ramrods and stuff. Do you think this hurts or benefits a small town? Does that make sense?
I would probably say it benefits you because we work with you, we know what's going on in Woodland Hills, and we're gonna
I did feel like me going in there, I'm this stranger to all these TAC people. I've never been in their meetings, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, pleading for is not the right word. And it felt like, hey, I have no credibility with these peers. Does that make sense? And it worked out and it was fine, but I just wondered, you know, what your thoughts on that was.
My personal opinion is I think it's probably better because
Where they have a voice, they kind of survive.
yeah.
Exactly, as a new guy in Survivor.
Yeah, and remember, this is, there's nothing,
1 hour, not paid.
something to remember, there's nothing binding about this rating that MAG staff is going to give. It's just going to be a way for MAG staff who knows the projects a little bit better than somebody that maybe doesn't live in the area to say, this is a good one, or maybe this one's not the greatest, or whatever, and give that kind of feedback that people are looking for.
If I could add to that, Mayor Staley, to your point about cities that don't have a lot of staff or zero staff. We have, you've reached out to us in the past, and so we've incubated some of your projects, kind of shepherd them through the process, and we're happy to do that for anyone. Please, if you need help on making an application of this fund, let us know and we'll work with you.
Well, just looking at that date, I mean, you guys are telling me today that I have to have ideas by November 1st. I'm like, oh no, I got something else. Who's gonna, you know, and I'd love to have 1,000 ideas, but now I gotta.
And that's just draft, right? And so that's the have the draft in, and I'll show you in a minute what the idea form looks like. It's really short. And once we get that draft, then we're going to invite people, you know, you will be welcome to come in, or other cities, your staff to come in, and we're going to talk about these projects. And then you're going to have basically 2 more weeks after that to make adjustments and changes. So there's nothing that's super critical to have by November 1st. If there are any more questions, I'll move on. If there are not, I should say. Okay, so this is the draft. This is the project idea form. Again, just a basic few questions to answer, and then we ask, you know, if there's a map or pictures or, you know, anything that helps illustrate what the problem is and what your solution is. You know, we have you submit those, and those obviously can be changed before the final meeting. But again, it's basically pretty quick and easy to do, and we can again help you if you need help on that. So once that meeting will take place, we will bring the results of that to this group in February. And then, but by then, your staff will have already had basically a month to take a look at it. Then we'll begin the concept stage. This is something where we've wanted to build a little bit more time in so that we can work with your cities again, work on the concept reports and make them as good as possible. And it's really the same process. They'll submit a draft version of it. They'll come and meet with MAG staff again to go through it. And then the final concept is not due until March 17th. And And then we'll take some time in March and April to just review it, make sure everything's accurate. There's always times where maybe a portion was not filled out correctly or something doesn't make sense and we have to go do a back and forth with the person that submitted it and say, is this really what you meant? Or is there something that we're missing here? And we'll just get those fixed and make changes. TAC and MPO and the staff will do our field trip the 11th and 12th of April. We usually do it in one day, and depending on the number of projects we get, we may switch it to 2 days. We don't want to, we put everybody on a bus and we drive all around the county, and we don't want to get to the point where at the end of the day, everybody's so tired and they're like, I don't care, just drive past and we'll wave at your project, right? So we want to make sure that we're giving everybody a good chance. And so it may be 1 day, it may be 2 days, depending on the number that we get, because we want to give everybody a chance to give a good presentation. And then technical review scores and evaluation will be released on April 20th. So then we have that project prioritization meeting where, again, all of TAC gets together. We do a quick run through of all the projects. And then, so this is one change. So last time, so MAG staff has always scored projects. We looked at the concept report and we give each project a score. Prior to last time's process, that didn't mean anything. Regional TAC and regional planning last time, in order to kind of improve the process, said, well, we want MAG staff's score to be 25% of the total final score, and TAC score will be 75%. After the last one, they said, we want to go a little bit further, and we want the TAC score total to be 50% and MAG score to be 50% combined to make the total. So it's just going to be 50-50. And then that will create that first draft list. Okay, so half of it's TAC, half of it's MAG. It gets compiled together to one final score that creates a list. And then after that, TAC will then vote to recommend a final priority list. So what that means is once this list gets put together based on scores, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to do that. They'll look at that and say, well, maybe we need to make a change here or change there. That's still a possibility. But basically, this is the second change. It went from 75-25 now to be 50-50. Again, that's what was recommended by TAC, and we're happy to, we're okay with it. We're happy to do it. Are there any questions?
Did most of TAC support that change to 50-50?
It was a unanimous vote, and everybody that we talked to was in favor of it. In fact, it was basically a group of TAC that suggested it to us to make that change.
Okay. So it was unanimous. I was just checking for how broad the support was.
There might be a straggler out there or two that wasn't in attendance meeting, but those that were there was a unanimous vote in affirmative. In positive.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Okay. So once the project scored is going to have that list 1 through 30 or whatever it is, then recommend that as the final list. That is going to be sent to you. And what we will do is that we will bring that. Did I go too far? Maybe went a little too far. So on April 25th is when TAC will create the list. On May 5th, we will bring that list to this body and we'll show you, this is how the list was created. This is how they ranked 1 through 30 or whatever the number is. And then we built in a month that was suggested or requested by this body years and years ago. You guys wanted a month to look at it, talk about it, and then we'll have you approve the final list on June 5th. So at June 5th, this group will say, this is the list 1 through whatever, and it's not going to change, okay? Moving forward, then it basically becomes academic after that. Once the list is made, the MPO staff will take the list and we'll start at the top and we'll start funding it based off of how much money we have. And we'll go through that process through June. And July 1st, we'll release the tip for public comment because there's a required 30-day public comment period. July 14th, we will have a public meeting where the public can come and give comments on not only the list of projects, but on all of the tip. We do that every year, that there's not a pandemic. Then on July 25th, TAC will approve the final tip, which includes the funding scenario. And then RPC, this group, will approve the final tip and the funding scenario on August 4th. If you're curious about how we fund projects, basically we start at number 1 and we work our way down, giving the highest, most desirable money and the earliest money to the top project, and then we'll work our way down. So we'll probably we may have a little bit of money. I said most of the money is in 25, 26. We might be able to fund 2 or 3 projects in 23 or 24, those top couple projects, if the funding works out, if we have enough money to do it. So we start and we give exchange money and county funds to the highest rated projects and work our way down. The highest rated project also receive the earliest money available, like I said. The little asterisks are though, because sometimes there are projects that fit pretty high up in the list, but they're projects that are just ripe for one of our federal funding sources like CMAX. For example, a project that is going to UTA or UDOT, who they're set up to use federal funds. It's a project that it's a air quality project or whatever. We will go give them that CMAQ money, that federal money, or whatever the case may be. And so we don't follow it super rigidly because we do want to be able to apply the right kind of money to the right kind of projects. And you'll be able to review that and approve it on August 4th. Any questions on that? So in conclusion, just remind you, the process is all going to be the same except for the 2 changes. 1, TAC will no longer vote at the project idea stage, but MAC staff will make their categorized recommendations. And then 2, at the concept stage, MAC staff score will now be 50% of the total and TAC's score will be 50% of the total. And basically that's the process. Those are the 2 changes that we are adopting. The rest of it is just following the regular procedure that we always do with the selection process. Are there any questions I can answer about any of this?
Can you send a copy of those slides to us after the meeting's over?
Yeah, Mayor, what we'll do is probably either tomorrow or Monday, we're going to send out an email with all of this information and the calendar. We also have if you go to our webpage, this is all up there right now, ready to go, that has all of this information. But we'll send this to you tomorrow at the latest.
Yeah, I have a question, Mayor Larson. On the funding on one of your previous slides, it said 6.77% match. What's that? Where's that match money coming from? What was that?
So with all of our funds, the local government or the project sponsor is required to provide 6.77% of the total project as a match. That's the way it's always been. So it kind of starts with the federal process, all federal funds, that's the number the federal government has given to us. So if you had a project that was given 6.77% and it was a total of $1 million, then you would have to come up with 6.77% of that. And then the federal money or the MAG money would come up with the 93.3% of the total project. And we've made that universal across all of our funding sources. A lot of times UDOT, depending on the project, there are other things that you can use for match. If you're bringing property to the project or other parts of the project, we do accept top match.
If two or three communities, the project went between them or benefited both of them, would that 6.7% be shared among maybe 2 or 3 cities if it was benefited both cities?
Yeah,
Marty, we'll get the county to do it.
Yeah, that would be something where we would expect or ask the cities to kind of work out beforehand and say, okay, you going to pay 3.5% and I'm going to pay 3.5%? That happens all the time, so that's pretty normal.
Bob, I was just gonna add to that, the 6.77% is kind of interesting requirement that the federal government imposes on the state of Utah. It's a very small match compared to other states. It's small because we have a lot of public lands. So it depends on how much public lands your state has as to what your match requirement is for those federal funds. Some states are paying 30–40% match to their federal funds. We're paying 6.7.
Yeah.
I think Nevada is a little bit lower than we are.
I think Nevada's the only one that's lower. Most, it's typically around 20% is what the normal amount is. Good questions. Any more questions I can answer about the process? Before I close, I just want to again reiterate, this is your process. We're here to facilitate your process, and we're here to help your projects be successful. We want to help, we work for you guys. We want your projects to be good and we want to fund them. And so please never hesitate to come ask us if you have questions or concerns, and we're happy to help you out through this process. It's year-long because I feel like we want to do a good job and take our time. There's no other questions, entertain a motion.
Motion that we amended as presented. Mayor Staley.
We have a first,
I'll second that.
a second from Mayor Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Who is it that opposed? Late eye. Just- Thought we had a big number.
Just waking up.
Okay.
Is that when you're supposed to talk to the state president if you oppose?
What does that mean, Rod?
Huh?
What does that mean?
Well, like in general conference, right?
Hey, we've got reports, Federal Highway Administration. Okay, Utah Department of Transportation. Jim Evans is not here. Okay. Mary,
I'm sorry.
anything from UTA?
UTA, I was late today because I didn't ride transit. I was driving, so. Everyone ride transit.
Can't.
Yeah.
We don't have.
We had it.
You can always get to where it is, you know.
The 35-minute to the transit.
Well, Salt Lake will save you some time.
I'd be up at 10:30 tonight.
Okay, no other reports. Our next scheduled meeting is November 4th, here at the same location. We'll adjourn the meeting.